All right, folks, as usual, we're going to just make sure all our connections are working on both Facebook, X, and on YouTube. So you can see the screen for about a minute. Gives you an idea of what's going on out there. And let me just check here. Gonna check my phone to make sure we're going out live. Yep. We're live on the Chatham Journal Facebook page. We should be coming up on the chat list page. That looks good. We are coming up on YouTube. YouTube's good. And let me just check on X. X is good too. So we are ready to rock and roll. All right, folks, Gene Galin here with the Chatham Journal. I've got the infamous Ashibo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record. And there's our agenda. Big news. Drake Powell's going to NBA draft. Shibo's going to get into that. Of course, spring sports. It's been a busy week. Shibo and I have been out to several games. We got more games coming up. We'll talk about what games we've got covered or will be covering. Then, of course, we'll get into the stories that Ashibo has in the Chatham News and Record newspaper. That comes out today, so make sure you get your copy. And then Ashibo's Athlete of the Week. Actually, I know who Ashibo's Athlete of the Week is, but I have not made up a little caption card for that, and I'll try to do that while Ashibo is going to tell you about what's going on in the world of UNC basketball and Drake Powell. I'm sure some folks have heard the news, but you had the opportunity. You went out to the UNC NCAA playoff game out in Ohio. So why don't you give folks a rundown of what's going on with Drake?
Yeah, so yesterday, like Gene said, a lot of you guys probably have already seen it already, but Drake announced on Instagram and on social media that he is making the decision to go to the NBA draft and try his luck there. But coming up in June, I think June 25th is the date of the draft, and this comes after his freshman year at UNC. Grew into the starter role, became a pretty solid three-point shooter, of course, lockdown defender, and did some great things on that side of the ball as well for UNC. And yeah, just a dream, for him that I know he's had, before even going to UNC, and he talked about it in high school. He said it in his statement, playing at the highest level was the ultimate goal for him. And so, of course, congratulations to him. Excited for him and what's to come in the NBA. And, I think, talking around, see how he's feeling about it. I think they're still trying to see where he'll land, whether it'll be a first round or second round. But I think in this draft, if he can get a look for first round, especially what he brings to the table, athleticism, the ability to drive to the basket, but of course, defense and his ability to guard multiple positions, especially on the perimeter, first round could be a possibility, or for him going into the NBA. So yeah, I know a lot of UNC fans were waiting for this news, because after the end of the season, with the transfer portal, different players moving in and out of the program, Drake Powell was one of the biggest ones they were waiting on to see how the roster. UNC fans know, the program knows. It'll be interesting to see where they go forward with replacing Drake Powell as well, and see how this. It'll be interesting to see how this process goes for him as well, with getting more NBA evaluations and seeing where he'll end up leading up to the draft.
Yeah, a lot has happened since yesterday. I just want to let folks know, Andrew Jones from the Tar Heel Illustrated and I have been friends. We've known each other for a couple dozen years. And on his Tar Heel Illustrated YouTube channel, he did a podcast last night, about 30 minutes long, just talking about what was happening with Drake. It seems that, as Ashibo mentioned, that he's announced to the NBA draft. The question also came up in the podcast: is it possible that he's going to come back? Andrew's feeling is no, he probably won't, because what will happen is Hubert Davis will need to fill that spot, because, as Ashibo mentioned, Drake ended up being a starter for a lot of the games last year, so it's a spot he needs to fill. And then the other thing that Andrew brought up in the YouTube podcast yesterday is the fact that Drake may be making this changeover because there's one or two teams that are specifically interested in him. And even if he lands up going to the G League, he's going to land up getting experience and building some body mass that will make him a valuable asset to some NBA team. So Sheila and I talked about this. We're going to miss the fact that we won't be able to cover Jaron and Drake on the same team, because that would be like freshman year at Northwood. And the folks that have seen them play there as teammates in freshman year at Northwood know that they played off of each other well. And unfortunately, Drake's not unfortunately. Fortunately, he's moving on, but we won't have the two of them on the same team. Folks, we will be covering Jaron Stevenson with UNC. So just wanted to let everybody be aware of that. So best of luck to Drake. You will see something from Ashibo. He's put in a request to talk with Drake, but I don't think that's going to happen right away because there's still a lot of moving pieces. But you can be assured that once he gets the information, Ashibo will get it out there on his X account, Ashibo R38, as well as the Chatham News and Record that comes out every week on Thursday. All right. So anything else that we need to add about Drake?
No, yeah, we're just, like you said, we're just waiting to see how this process is going to go for him, and maybe come June, if he's still in the NBA draft, seeing where he'll end up.
Yeah. So again, Ashibo's done a really good job staying on top of this story, as well as a lot of Chatham County high school students who have moved on. He's done several different articles and updates during the year. So, folks, again, it's worthwhile. Pick up the Chatham News and Record. All right, let's go into the sports. And again, let's include Ashibo started this last week. He's also doing unofficial power rankings. We had official power rankings during basketball and football season, but we're doing unofficial rankings because folks want to know how things are going to stack up. Plus, the state playoffs are not that far away. So, Shibo, when you're talking about, also give a feeling as to which one of the Chatham County teams are going to make it into the state playoffs. So let's go ahead and start.
Yeah, let's start with baseball and start with Seaforth, which we'll talk a lot about in this stream for the baseball side. But this week, they started the week with a 12-2 win over Bartlett Yancey. And in that one, Jaden Rader and Easton Sykes both went 3 for 4 from the plate with 2 RBIs. Just a lot of hitting in that one, as you can tell by the score. And then Northmore for Seaforth, a big one because they this week are still trying to play for the regular season conference title. They had to win both of these games before tomorrow's game with Southeast Alamance, so we'll talk about that later. But they did get the big win over Northmore, 10-9. This week as well. They were actually up 10-5 entering the 6th inning in that one, but Northmore came back, scored 3 runs in the 6th inning, and one in the 7th. But in that one, Daniel White on the mound was on the mound in the 7th inning, got 2 strikeouts, and then held the Mustangs to just that one run, like we said, to hold them off and prevent the comeback. So Seaforth got the big one there, and they'll get a chance to play for the regular season conference title with Southeast Alamance tomorrow night. Both teams 10-1 in the conference. So that one's for everything. And then Northwood, they got the 15-1 win over Cornerstone and Charter this week as well. Camden Miller in that one, 2 for 5 from the plate with 5 RBIs. Chatham Central, they got a win over Northmore too, 12-5 in that one, led by Zane Overman, who went 2 for 3 from the plate with 4 RBIs. And then other scores, Chatham Charter 8-1 over Clever Garden School. They clinched their regular season title, and Central Tar Heel won a conference with that win. And Garrison Clark, he went 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs in that one. And then Ashboro beat Jordan Matthews 10-2 as well during the week. So that's just a rundown of what we had in baseball leading up till today. And yeah, like Gene said, the playoffs are just right around the corner. We'll have some of the conference tournaments coming up soon, with regular seasons ending this week for a lot of our teams. And looking at the 1A East side, to start with, Chatham Charter up there, ranked 11th in the RPI standings. Chatham Central is hanging on to its playoff hopes, ranked 31st in the RPI standings. So we'll have to see how they finish their season and how other teams finish out as well to see where they'll land as far as playoff standing. And then 2A East, Seaforth, they're the 19th team in the RPI standings there. Of course, for seeding, Friday's game will be huge because if they win the regular season title, that will put them up even higher in the tournament. And then Northwood, they're sitting at 28th in the RPI standing. So a little at the bottom there, but once again, kind of Chatham Central have to see how they finish the season, how other teams finish the seasons as well. And the conference tournament will be a big help too as well if they can get some extra wins against some good teams in the conference. So yeah, that's where we are with baseball. Unofficial power rankings. I wouldn't say it probably wouldn't change too much from last week. I think I have Jordan Matthews coming in at the 5th spot. At the 4th spot, I have Chatham Central, and at the third and second, between Chatham Charter at 3rd and Northwood at 2nd. I think for what we've seen from both teams in their respective conferences, kind of neck to neck there. And then Seaforth putting themselves in position to win the conference, taking care of business these last couple of weeks. I think I have them as the number 1 team. A lot of wins in a row here. And then, of course, playing against Southeast Alamance, they should feel pretty good coming in till tomorrow's game because the last time they played them, they won that one 10-0. So Seaforth has shown a display of great pitching for multiple pitchers, hitting across the board. Just a really good team, and that should feel good going into the playoffs and, of course, the conference tournament first before the state tournament.
Again, I agree with your power rankings because I haven't had a chance to see too many of those games. So, folks, there's your power. Again, Seaforth, Northwood, Chatham Charter, Chatham Central, and JM. Is that the way? I think that's your unofficial power rankings.
Yeah.
And as Ashibo said, looks like we have 4 teams that with a chance to get into the state playoffs. So that's something everybody wants to be able to do, is be good enough to get into the state playoffs. All right, let's get into the next sport, Ashibo.
Yep, and then we're going to go over to softball. Chatham Central, last week, they clinched their conference, the Mid-Carolina 1A2A Conference regular season title with the win over Seaforth, and we'll talk about that later. But this week, 13-1 win over Northwood on the back of Emma Burke, who went 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. And then Chatham Central also beat Lee County, non-conference team. That's higher classification as well, 12-9. That one, Chloe Brewer, 2 for 5 and 3 RBIs. And Seaforth, another team that's been pretty good this season, pretty high up in the Mid-Carolina 1A2A standings. They got the big win over Southeast Alamance, which was postponed earlier. And I think 2 weeks ago, or maybe last week, but before, they were down 4-0 before it was postponed. They finished it up last night. And Seaforth actually came back and won that one 6-5. Annika Johansson had a home run that tied it at 5, I think in the 7th inning. And they went into extra innings. They went into the 8th. And Alyssa Harris, I hope that's the right name, had a home run that gave them the lead as well. So just great win from there for Seaforth. And Emma Grace Hill, also on the mound, had 15 strikeouts for Seaforth. Only gave up 1 hit in that game. So, yeah, Seaforth softball. And I'm pulling up their place in the standings now. Second in the Mid-Carolina 1A2A Conference, 11-3 so far. And, yeah, another great team to follow as we will get into the playoffs and the conference tournaments in a second. But Seaforth also beat Jordan Matthews 9-4 on the back of Emma Grace Hill, 10 strikeouts in that win. And then Jordan Matthews bounced back with a 14-1 win over Eastern Randolph. And that one, a freshman, Kenley Jordan, 1 for 2 with 3 RBIs. And then Chatham Charter got a win over Cornerstone Charter, 12-7. So those are our softball scores from this week up till today. And on the 1A East side, looking at the RPI standings, when it comes to the state playoffs, got Chatham Central all the way up as the number 6 team in the RPI standings. So great standing for them. And, of course, like we said, they've already got the conference title, so they'll get priority in the seating. And then Chatham Charter is not too far, at the bottom, but kind of in the middle at number 22. So just looking to see how other teams finish as well, because I'm not too sure. Actually, let me check Chatham Charter's conference standing, because I don't think they're winning their conference. Let me just be sure. Yeah, they're second right now behind Clever Gardner School, who's 7-1 in the conference. And actually, Chatham Charter will play Clever Garden tonight in their last conference game. So, that's what we have For 1A East softball, 2A East, Seaforth, number 18 team in the RPI standings. Jordan Matthews is right behind them at number 19. So it'll be interesting to see where those two will end up, and if we could possibly see those teams play each other in the state playoffs, being that close in the standings. So unofficial softball power rankings, same thing that we did for baseball. I think at the 5 spot, I'll have Northwood. At the 4 spot, Chatham Charter. At the 3, Jordan Matthews. And 2, Seaforth. And at the number 1 spot, I'll have Chatham Central. So, yep, that's what we have for softball. Gene, do you agree with the softball power rankings?
Yes, I do, because I follow you on X. I know what's going on. I was going to say, when you were talking about the RPI rankings, you want to be in what, the top 32, so that supposedly you'll make it into the playoffs, and then if you're one of the top 16, you'll probably be hosting. Is that correct? Just want to let folks know that.
Yeah, so generally you want to be in the top 32 as far as being in good standing. Of course, the conference winners, they get the priority seeding. So if you win your conference, you're going to get seeded first. And the best of the conference winners, of course, go from 1, 2, and all the way down. And then outside of that, your at-large bids for the state playoffs fill out the rest of the 32 on each side of the bracket. So, yeah, you want to be generally in that area. If from 1 to about 34, some of the teams below the 32 will still have a chance because we have the conference tournaments. You get more chances to play some games and get some wins and add on to your RPI figure. So, yeah, when we look at teams, closer to the bottom from 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, like you said, these last couple of games, especially the conference tournaments, are huge in trying to get an extra push into the state playoffs.
So overall, RPI ranking is important. However, you put yourself in a better position for where you're going to show up in the tournament by winning your conferences. Is that am I reading that correct?
Yes, yeah, winning your conference is the ultimate thing you can do to secure a spot in the playoffs, but also secure a highest seed as you can. And of course, once you win your conference, your RPI with other conference winners determines how high you can go in the state tournament.
All right. So it looks like we got a bunch of schools that are in pretty good position here in Chatham County. But again, as Shebo said, going for the tournament wins as well as the conference title is important. All right. So we got softball and baseball taken care of. What you got next to talk about?
Yeah, so we can go into girls soccer as well. We had some scores this week at Seaforth. They had a 10-0 win over Cummings to start the week on the back of Amanda Darden, the freshman, who had 2 goals. And then she did it again with 2 goals in the next game. Last night, Seaforth beat Northwood 3-0 in a big conference game. And, of course, Seaforth, I think they've been without Sophia these past 2 games. So, been pretty impressive to see them, continue to have that success in the conference, especially a good team like Northwood, who has had a great season this year as well, and gave them a pretty good game last night at Seaforth. And then other scores, we had Southeast Alamance beating Jordan Matthews 10-1. Last night, me and Gene were at at Woods, watching the Wolves take on Franklin Academy, a 2A team in a non-conference bout, and Franklin Academy won that one 7-1. And we'll talk about that game a little bit more in a second. And then Chatham Charter got the 11-5 win over Central Carolina Academy this week as well. Emily Scheidt had 6 goals in that one. And then against Triangle Math and Science, Scheidt had 1 goal to give Chatham Charter the 1-0 win over Triangle Math and Science. So big week for her as well with 7 goals so far leading up till today. So, yeah, those are girls soccer scores as of now. And yeah, I mean, girls soccer still has a ways to go. Still some games left in their regular season before we can really get into the playoffs. But just looking at the Mid Carolina 1A 2A conference, I mean, Seaforth right now still undefeated in conference play. By far the best team. Like we said, they went up against Northwood last night, which you could argue is the second best team in the conference right now. And yeah, still 3-0, still a shutout. I think Seaforth just another year with the same core of girls I went to the state championship last year. with, of course, the freshmen that they've put in the positions earlier in this year to get some varsity experience. They're growing into those roles now. As we said, Amanda Darden carrying the load here the past couple games. There were some other freshmen with some bigger roles earlier in the year as well that have been keeping them afloat with dealing with some injuries this year. So I think Seaforth, full strength when they can, compete with everyone. They're the team to beat, not even just in the conference, but arguably in all the 2A classification.
So unofficial power rankings, you got Seaforth as 1, Northwood as 2. Who do you have as 3, 4, and 5?
Yeah, so 3, I'll put. I think Woods Charter can still make a case for 2. And we talked with Coach Graham Stewart last night. I mean, they're a young team, younger team this year, and of course they lost Amelia Cherry to Northwood this season. But yeah, that they're still able to compete against really good teams. Last night against Franklin Academy, if it wasn't for that, I think 15 minutes to start the second half where Franklin scored, I think, 4 goals in that time. I mean, they were right there with them. They were down 1-0 at halftime. Then after that period where, Franklin Academy kind of ran up the score, they did pick up a little bit more fight and hold Franklin Academy to just a couple more scores and made it more difficult for them, which is a big win for a team like that. Like we said, a younger team looking to kind of find their rhythm coming into the last stretch of the regular season. But I mean, outside of that, Woods Charter has been, controlling their destiny in the conference as well, still undefeated, 7-0 in first place in the conference. So, I think they can still do some big things in the 1A level. And then we'll get to see them play Northwood on May 8th at Northwood as well, which will be big for our power rankings and determining who's the better team. But right now, I'll put Woods Charter at 2nd, Northwood at 3rd. Then at 4th, I'll put Chatham Charter, and at 5th, Woods Charter. I mean, not Woods Charter, Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounded pretty good. And when we were talking Coach Stewart yesterday, they were in the championship game last year. I don't know if they'll get into the championship game this year. They are strong, and we've talked about this several times. The coaches that take advantage and play higher ranked, higher conference teams, that's what Coach Stewart does. And again, the first half was pretty close. Second half is when Franklin Academy actually put it on. Talking about Seaforth, you mentioned that they're doing well. However, let's see here. Sophia is actually, I ran into the coach at the game. She's out with for 3 weeks, so she will hopefully be back for the playoffs, and we'll see if Ashibo and I get to cover them in the championship game again this year. Watching them play, they talk to each other while they're out there. They know what their positions are and who needs to do what to be able to go in there and score. Now they did beat Cummings 10-0, but I told Ashibo yesterday the Cummings goalie did a very nice job making some tough saves. It's just that so many shots were coming at her, and for the most part, Seaforth was able to keep the ball on the Cummings side of the field. So we congratulate Seaforth on their good job, as well as the other teams that are doing well in girls soccer. All right, are we ready to talk about some lacrosse, both boys and girls lacrosse?
Yeah, so boys lacrosse, just one score from this week so far. Seaforth beat Southern Alamance 18-10. And in that one, Cameron Exley, 6 goals, Ivan Grimes, 5 goals, the 2 usual attacks who have been carrying the load for Seaforth on the offensive side of things this season. And Seaforth, of course, boys lacrosse, like we've been saying the past couple of weeks, they're in a pretty tight race with Orange and Southern Alamance as well in the conference as far as getting to that conference title. And should things Seaforth and Orange continue to win out in this last stretch of the regular season, we could see a tie at the top of the conference between Seaforth and Orange. But Southern Alamance was also kind of still in the running, but Seaforth, beating them this week has kind of knocked them down a little bit. And so right now, looking at the standings, with Orange being 11-1, Seaforth being 10-1, it's looking like it's going to come down between those two. And like we said, because they've already played each other twice, split the series, if they continue to win out, we're going to have a tie, and it's probably going to have to be maybe a flip of the coin or something to determine who's going to get that nod for the seating priority in the playoffs. But yeah, Seaforth boys across still going strong this season. And then if you want to go to girls across, I think the only score we had this week was Chapel Hill beating Northwood 19-0. And so, yeah, those are just all lacrosse scores. We only have Seaforth and Northwood, so not much to talk about in the other sports that we have in lacrosse.
Yeah, I was out at the Northwood game against Chapel Hill and the girls soccer team and lacrosse game, and Chapel Hill was just way strong. They were able to go in there and just keep the ball in Northwood side of the field. So yeah, at that halftime, I think they were 10-0 or 11-0. So and you've got a young team at Northwood for their lacrosse team. All right. What's next on our agenda? We're gonna track and field. Anything going on in track and field?
I have not looked at any of the meets this week, but as you guys know, you guys can look at the results. I usually do the team results at the track and field meets in our roundup every week, and we have a roundup up for this week as well. Just looking at the team results for Northwood second home meet on April 16th. On the boys' side, the Chargers did get the win at home over Seaforth, who came in second, and then Jordan Matthews came in third. Chatham Charter at fifth, and then tied for seventh were Chatham Central and Woods Charter on the boys' side. And on the girls' side there, Northwood won that one, and Seaforth came in second. Jordan Matthews came in fourth. Woods Charter finished fifth, and Chatham Charter finished sixth, with Chatham Central finishing seventh. So, a lot of our teams pretty tight in the standings for those. And like I said, we'll have regionals coming up in a couple of weeks for track and of course the state championships. Where I'll be covering all of our athletes. We should have a lot of athletes from multiple schools: Seaforth, possibly Jordan Matthews, possibly Chatham Central, Woods, and Chatham Charter as well, that could make it to the state championship meet and compete for some medals there. So, yep, that's our update in the track.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that track and field. As you said, just from what I've seen in the events that have gone on this year, Chatham County's got some good track and field folks out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of them come away with personal best times as well as some award. So congratulations to all the track and field folks here in Chatham County. It's not just the big schools that are doing well in track and field, it's also the smaller schools that are doing it as well. All right. Are we ready to go into the stories you have in the paper this week?
Yeah, we can.
Go for it.
Yeah, so like I said, we already have the Spring Sports Roundup. Of course, you guys could recap all the games and kind of the big moments from last week's sports slate. But of course, one of the biggest pieces of news we got last week was Seaforth officially selecting Tolbert Matthews as a new head football coach. They announced it on social media, and Tolbert Matthews, he's coming from Fayetteville State, where he was coaching linebackers the last 2 seasons, and he's had some other experience interning with some schools in the Wake County area as well. Also, HBCU football guy, played football at Delaware State and Elizabeth City State, and graduated from Elizabeth City State with a bachelor's degree in physical education. So, yeah, he's got plenty of experience as far as working with high schoolers, as well as coaching on a college level, getting that experience and having those connections. So it'll be really exciting to do what he does as the second ever head coach in Seaforth football history. And then we also have our game stories from last week. Chatham Central beating Seaforth in softball and clinching the regular season conference title there. You can read more about that game. Maddie Kazmarczyk, the star pitcher for Chatham Central, had 13 strikeouts in that one. So you can read more about how she shut things down on the mound and with the help of her defense behind her as well. And then, of course, the story from Orange and Seaforth boys across. Big conference game between first place Seaforth at the time and second place Orange. Orange gets the win, takes the first place spot where they've been ever since. And like we said, it'll probably be a tie once everything fizzles out if both teams win out. So you can read more about that game in the paper as well. And then one of the more interesting things we have this week. So I think it was a couple Mondays ago. Supa, if you guys remember, we did the story on them and them getting the NIL deal for Gabby White and Amber Brown, who's a track standout as well. They proposed a plan to the town of Pittsboro to build a over 600,000 square foot multi-building sportsplex in Pittsboro, and well, the plans are to build it in Chatham County. And just a story of what was said in the meeting, and also too kind of the questions that are kind of coming out of this proposal, as far as a lot of things were unanswered in the meeting where it comes to location, exactly where they plan to build it, and the costs. Those are some questions that they didn't really get answered in the meeting. So we'll also be keeping an eye on that and working to get some more answers on exactly what's going on with this building and if it's actually going to come to fruition one day. So yeah, those are our stories. Actually, all of our stories for Chatham News and Record this week.
Yeah, the other thing I just want to remind folks is that actually Ashibo is an award-winning sports writer. He's not just a Chatham County sports writer, but he's award-winning. He won from the North Carolina Press Association Award for one of his stories last year. He's so proud. He took a picture of him and his mom together, and he's up for several nominations. Several of his stories are up for awards this year. So the best of luck to Shibo. And just think of it, you've been only out of J school for what, two years or three?
It'll be 2 years this May. Yep.
2 years in this May, and he's already, doing award-winning writing, covering stuff here in Chatham County. I'm glad we have him here as a sports writer, and I know a lot of folks are. And if you see him out there, say, hey, thanks for covering the sports. I know the moms, dads, players, and coaches appreciate all the hard work he's putting in, and I do hope you come back with another award or two this year. All right, are we now ready for your athlete of the week?
Yes, we are ready for the athlete of the week. And this week's athlete of the week, we're going to Seaforth girls soccer. Sophia Viana earns this week's athlete of the week honors. She got athlete of the week last season, gets it again this year, just for what she did last week, right? Her second game back from injury. She scored a team high 7 goals against Bartley Yancey, where they won that game 15-0. And that's her third time scoring more than 5 goals in the game this season. She also scored 2 goals in Seaforth's 4-1 win over Orange, 3A opponent, on April 16th. And against 4A opponent Middle Creek on April 17th, she scored Seaforth's only goal that they needed to win that one, 1-0. So she was huge for the Hawks in her return from injury. As she continued her return from injury, of course, like Gene said, she will unfortunately miss some more time this season. But at the time we wrote this, she's been, lights out for them. At the time we wrote this, she had 28 goals. I think it's more now. It might just be 28. I think I don't remember her playing these last 2 games. But yeah, she's still leading the team in goals. Just an explosive offensive player that we've come to know last year when she was a freshman. I mean, not a freshman. Last year when she was a sophomore, and also her freshman year as well. But still doing it as a junior. And if she comes back and Seaforth gets all the way healthy, like we said, the Hawks should make another deep run in the 2A playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And I know her dad's especially proud of her, and her mom is too. So what I'm going to do is, Mom, if you're watching this right here below, I'm trying to get this right there. Go ahead and take a screenshot of that. Sophia Viana, Seaforth High School girls soccer. That's a Shibo's athlete of the week. So we hope she gets better, and hopefully we'll be all in good shape in time for the playoffs. And maybe we'll be back at the championship game with the Hawks this year. All right. Anything else? I guess we're close to wrapping up. Anything else before we let folks know where you and I are going to be for the next week or so, next few days?
Nope. I think we got it all covered. Like I said, spring season is always busy. We got about 7-8 sports. We got boys golf as well. We're going to keep an eye on that as well, because we should have some golfers maybe competing for state as well, especially out of Seaforth, who just won state last year. So yeah. Busy time of the year. We try to get to as much as we can, and we appreciate you all continue to watch, reading our stories, and keeping up with the coverage we have of Chatham sports.
There we go. My camera just went out for a second for some reason. So went to the backup camera. All right. Yes. We had a bunch of stuff going on. I'm just usually, I kind of hang taking pictures on the east side of the county. PJ handles the west side a lot. I'm just looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 sporting events this week. So we try to get as many of those as we can. So I'm going to be at the Northwood versus Seaforth lacrosse game today. Shibo, where are you going to be next couple of days?
Yep, I'll be with you tonight at Northwood for lacrosse against Seaforth. And also tomorrow, like I said, I'll be at Southeast Alamance reporting on that game with Seaforth. Big game for the Mid Carolina 1A 2As for the regular season conference title. So you guys can follow me on X with updates. Of course, and of course, Game Changer as well. If you guys have that, go on there, look up Seaforth baseball. You can follow the game there as well. But I have updates as well on X. If you guys don't have Game Changer. And we'll see what happens and see if Seaforth can get that conference title tomorrow night.
Yep, and I'll probably be tomorrow, maybe at the Northwood versus Chatham Charter softball game, and then Seaforth's got softball as well versus Northmore, and Seaforth's playing Southern Lee in girls soccer. So again, there's almost half a dozen events, and Shibo and I will be at one of those. So we'll get at least 2 of those covered. Folks, thank you for watching. Come back next Thursday for your ChathamNC Sports Roundup. We appreciate all the folks that watch us on Facebook, X, and on YouTube. And a reminder, YouTube, all our stuff is out there as well. And the reason I mention that is because Facebook has made a change where anything that's live streamed after 30 days is deleted. So that's going to be gone. This episode will be gone in 30 days on Facebook, but you'll still be able to find it on YouTube. And I do try to run a summary and post that on the Facebook page so that folks, and that's the link to the YouTube video. So if you want to, you can watch that on YouTube as well. All right. Before we finish up, anything else, Shibo?
No, but like we said, I think we got it all covered.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was useful. And look, go pick up a Chatham News and Record newspaper, pick it up, and read the Shibo stories on there. So